The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth.
All right, we're going to jump right in because at the end of the message, I'm going to explain to you what this sign is out here that you pulled up on, and there's different, there's like a different logo. Where'd the D go? Did we come to the right church? That kind of thing. I don't think any of you thought that, but like some of you may go like, what does that even mean? And we're going to explain that, and we're going to celebrate that in between services. We've got cake, because you know how Debbie does things. If we're going to celebrate, we're going to get cake, right? Amen? How many of you don't eat cake for breakfast typically? If you raise your hand, you're like, that way, I want to know how you're living your life. You're doing something right that I'm not doing, all right? So glad you're here, but we're going to jump right in because you know me, I'll go long, so I'm going to try and go short so that I can go long on the logo presentation, all right? Just kidding. No, I'm not. Right, you're right. Here it is. Verse 11, we're going to be in John chapter 10, and we're going to kind of reiterate some things from last week, but really we're going to dive deeply into this idea, more and more of this idea of a good shepherd and how this looks in our lives. Here's what it says in chapter 10, verse 11 in the book of John. It says, I am the good shepherd. Circle, highlight, and underline, because he repeats it over and over again. And any Bible study you're doing, don't pass that up. Go, what does that mean? What's that mean for me? What's Jesus trying to get across here? It goes on, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. He's just worried about clocking in and clocking out. Doesn't want to get any boops, like scrapes or bruises on him. Just wants to just move on, not get hurt, right? All that kind of stuff. So when he sees the wolf coming, the hired hand abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. So let's not run past this too quickly. What does it actually mean that Jesus is the good shepherd? Well, we have to look at some things in our past, right? Some of us grew up in church and we saw pictures like this on the screen of like what it looked like for Jesus to kind of like, this is what like following Jesus looked like, right? It's Jesus who's just like cuddling a lamb and he's just holding it so softly and gently and lowly. I think we got a couple of pictures. We got a couple of pictures. This one, right? Like we love this image of Jesus. He's just got us wrapped up in a blanket. Another one is Jesus with the beautiful ray of light behind him and the lamb just perfectly in his, right? Like in his arms. Like some of us grew up in church and we're like so familiar with those images. Now others of us who either grew up in church and became cynical or didn't grow up in church, we're like, if that's what following Jesus is like, I'm out of here, right? That's like weird stuff. So what is it actually? What do we envision when we think about the Good Shepherd? Sometimes we think about that, and that is actually not a great picture of what it looks like. You know why? Because your life is messy. You're constantly trying to hop out of Jesus' arms. You're not resting. Like, listen, I know you, okay? You are not resting peacefully with Jesus. You are arguing. Yeah, thanks for carrying me, but I want to do this. He's like, well, we don't do that. Yeah, but I do, right? You argue with him. You become cynical. You become rebellious. You're constantly leaping out of his arms. Like, you are not good sheep, right? Like, the point is, he calls you sheep. He's the good shepherd. He's not like, I'm a good shepherd with a good flock. He's like, I'm a good shepherd and you're dumb sheep, right? We talked about this last week, right? He says something like that's so mean and offensive. We are his sheep that often go astray, and yet we're also incredibly valuable. Everything about the sheep was valuable. The wool, the skin, the meat. A shepherd didn't have a bank account. He had sheep because it was his treasure. It was what he valued most. So what does it actually mean that Jesus is our good shepherd? Two things. It means simply that you are in the care of someone else, and that the whole weight of your life, that someone else is carrying the entire weight of your life. You are in the care of someone else, and that someone else is carrying the entire weight of your life. Another word for shepherd in the Greek is poimen, which means pastor. So where we get our word pastor from. Like pastors are supposed to be shepherds. And so you could put it like this: Jesus is our good pastor. The one that really cares about our well-being, your heart, your soul, your mind, what your affections are growing toward, what you're heading to. Like he cares about your identity and who you are in light of the world and in light of eternity. This is what Jesus is for us. He's the good pastor. But sometimes we move too quickly past this metaphor of the good shepherd because of the word good, right? Okay, so Bible nerds, like the word kalos is the word good. It means authentic, beautiful, and true. Kind of the way God designed it, he designs the world in true fashion. It's beautiful, it's good, it's authentic, and it's true. Jesus has talked about himself being the true bread and the true water, the true judgment, the true witness. And when he's saying that, he's saying, I am the true, I am the good shepherd. Others that are vying for your attention, that are trying to be your shepherd, they're trying to be your voice, just know every time you listen to their voice, you will walk away discontent, unsatisfied, and you'll be stuck in the loop and the cycle of this chaotic life all over again. Jesus is saying there's lots of voices that are vying for your attention, but I'm the good shepherd that'll lead you. I'm the one who can actually fulfill the promises that I make. What are things that are vying for your attention ultimately? More than that, who or what are you putting your life in their hands? Who or what are you letting yourself be cared for? What is that for you? Who are you trusting to carry the weight of your life? Maybe for some of us, it has been a pastor in the past. Maybe you're here because your former pastor wasn't the greatest strategist or the greatest communicator. Maybe he wasn't funny or he wasn't perfect, this, that, or the other. And I want to support you and care for you and be there for you. And I want to get to know your story and be a part of your life. I want to do that well. I want to be a good pastor. But I just have news for you. If you look at me and you're like, I want you to be better than the pastor that I had before, I just want to share this with you. I will let you down. Bro, listen, okay? One time, there's a good guy, just faithful guy. He's walking into church, and for 4 weeks in a row, I said, "Hey, good morning, Ralph." And every week, he just said, "Hey, good morning, good morning." The 5th week, I say, "Good morning, Ralph." He goes, "Hey, Travis, my name is Randy." I got his name wrong for 4 weeks, like an idiot. And I can't tell you how many times I've done this. Listen, if you are looking at me and you're like, "Hey, Travis will just be this pastor and this will go well," listen, at some point I'm going to let you down. There's only one pastor who won't let you down, and his name is Jesus. He's the one who makes the promise, and he's the one who will never let you down. He's the one who can actually bear the entire weight of your life. He's the one who can actually carry you. He's the one who can provide for you. He's the one who can guide you. Maybe for you, it's not a pastor. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your friend or a boss. Some of you have such high expectations of others, you put the weight of your life on them. Some of you, it's a relationship you want to be in, and so you put all these expectations on this relationship. And then it crumbles, and you don't know who you are anymore, and you lose sight of life. Jesus warns us in this text, there's only one shepherd that can bear the weight of your entire life. It is Jesus. We've got to believe that. The second reason, that's the first reason. We just like this good idea. Can we really trust him as good? The second reason is the other reason we don't resonate with this metaphor is because we don't believe in our heart of hearts that we actually need a shepherd. This is the confession we never make in church. We know the right answer, trust Jesus as your good shepherd, but really our heart of hearts says, yeah, but I don't need one as much as they do, or as they do, or as that guy or that girl. I'm okay on my own mostly. I just need Jesus to help me with the last 4% I haven't figured out of my life. Other than that, I'm good to go. And in fact, Jesus, don't come too closely to me. I don't want you to get too involved. I want to control your level of involvement in my life because I can do most of life all by myself. And then there's Isaiah 53 that tells us everything you need to know about humanity. It says this, we all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Now, there are many ideas when it comes to the idea of sin. There's the word sin, which is, right, that's our church word. We're like, that basically means that you miss the mark. You disobeyed in some way. You rejected the rules. But there's this other idea of sin. It's the word transgression, and this one's a little heavier. Transgression is knowing that something is wrong and doing it anyway. You don't lack any clarity. You know this is wrong, and you do it anyway. You lock the door so nobody can see it. You get away from people. You know it's wrong. You know you're in disobedience, but you just do it. That's a transgression. It's a lot heavier. But there's this third word that gets used in Isaiah called iniquity. And in this text, it is less about what you do and more about what you are prone to do. Iniquity basically is you are prone to wander. You are prone to leave the God that you love. You're prone to sin. You have a bent or an appetite that goes the wrong way. You have an appetite to rush towards sin. You have this self-sabotage, sinful thing in you that always wants to do what is out of line with God in that particular area of your life. You're like, I've refined my life. I follow God in these areas, but this one over here, I just have a bent to just stray away from Him and do it my own way. That's us in this text. That's what Jesus is talking about. You are the sheep that wander away, and you are prone to go your own way. And it's usually displayed in images like this, right? Here's how we see it. Instead of Jesus holding us, He's gone right into the mountains. He's found us way up high on the cliff edges, and He's got us on His shoulders because He's going to carry us back to the sheep pen. Not just this one, but this one, right? He's got you on the shoulder, and He's rushing you back to safety through the chaos and the torment of life. And then there's this one too, where He's waded into the water because you're drowning, right? And He's like got you on His shoulders, and He's literally carrying you back. I've been in each of these moments too, where Jesus is just literally carrying me back to safety, away from my propensity to sin, from my proneness to sin and to drift away from Him. But then it always happens. He gets me back in the sheep pen, and then I start to look outside. When I first get in the sheep pen, I'm like, oh, thank you so much. The water was crazy. I hate heights, and the mountain was crazy. And I was like so far away. It's crazy how far away I got. So, wow, I see my family again. This is all great. God's house, worship, praise. Woo, everything's good. And then by like day 3, I'm looking out at the sheep pen again. I'm like, oh, I could have scaled those mountains. I just need to go this way. Oh, I could have taken the boat instead of tried to swim. And we come up with all new ideas to go back into the same territory that burned us 3 days before, right? This is what we're prone to do. We're prone to wander back. We get cocky and we come back into the sheep pen and we're like, He's my shepherd. He's got me on His back. I just need to follow Him. And then by day 3, we're like, never mind. I can do it all by myself. Here, watch me. We do this over and over and over again. And every single time we do, Jesus, the Good Shepherd, goes, no, you can't. No, you can't. What's even more interesting is Jesus frames this entire teaching in the Judean desert. It's a food-scarce, dangerous place. Not much water. It rained a bit from like October to March, but there isn't much water around. Predominantly the rest of the year, it's food scarce, it's water scarce, it's cliffs, it's sharp edges everywhere. Sheep would not survive in that terrain without a shepherd, not a chance. Gary Burge puts it this way. He says, it takes little convincing to show that the environment of the world is as treacherous as a Judean desert. Treacherous. So Jesus is saying to His disciples, look, guys, you have to understand that you are living in a modern-day desert. You are living in an ethical wilderness. It's moral chaos, and it is so easy to lose your way and to get lost at times. If you go your own way, listen, if you go your own way, you are going to get beaten up. You're going to get tied up in thorns. You're going to drown. And I'm going to come after you. I'm coming for you. But this is what's going to happen to you over and over and over again. And here's the insanity of our hearts. We return to being our own voice and our own shepherd, or we let somebody else be the voice or the shepherd of our lives because we feel that we'd rather take our chances in the desert because we're comfortable with it than we would obeying him and walking in life with him. We just take it on. I have many examples of me taking matters into my own hands and only doing more harm than good, right? When I was a freshman in high school, I wanted to run cross country because my basketball coach was a cross country coach, and I thought I could impress him. There's all sorts of, right? I get an ego everywhere I go. I'm like, let me just show him how good I am at cross country. I had never run more than a mile in my life, and so they said 3.1 miles. I assumed that's okay. I can do that. So I show up first day of practice in basketball shoes, and my coach goes, he's being a good shepherd to me. He's like, hey, you need running shoes. And I'm like, running shoes, those don't even exist. The only shoes that I thought existed at that time were basketball shoes. That's the only thing that mattered. So I had basketball shoes, and I'm like, dude, I run on the basketball court in these. I can run 3 miles in these. Who cares? So I start running. First day of practice, I get 70 stitches in my left arm. I've never met a loser who has been in cross-country practice and gotten 70 stitches. Like, what is... I am so egotistical, it's insane. Here's what happens. I start running, and all these losers who running with me on my team, like, they are afraid to jump over this little gap of it. Like, it's like a rock, and then there's like a little edge you can jump over. And I'm like, that is easy, dude. I play basketball. And I try and make the jump, and I splat. Boom. Land on the rock, elbows on the rock, and I think I'm okay until I see my left arm. And it's like a gaping wound. And I'm like, this is crazy. I bet this happens all the time, though. And my cross-country coach is like, Travis, this has never happened, and I've been coaching for like 40 years. Guys, left to my own devices, that's a normal Monday for me, all right? If I'm not shepherded well, that's just me being Travis. Jesus looks, he's like, what another sheep moment in Travis's life. Jesus is constantly trying to heal us and put us back together. But we keep distracting ourselves, filling ourselves, like believing we can do more than we can, believing we can do it all by ourselves, believing the lies from the enemy, no matter what it is. Listen, for you it may be something else, and for you the consequences may have been steeper. Jesus goes, hey, before you start browsing those sites, let me help you. Hey, before you drink so that you don't feel the pain, let me help you. Hey, before you start talking behind your friends' backs and lying to them in their faces, let me help you. Before you start stealing from the company, before you start dabbling again, looking at like, should you even be here, and thinking of suicide, let me help you. He's the only voice there to help you. See, we all want Jesus to be our Savior and our protector and our consultant, but when it comes to him actually shepherding us, when it goes, hey, you have a broken arm, you need to rest, we go like this. That's merely a flesh wound. That's no big deal. This isn't that bad. And we go on our own way, and he's like, hey, slow down. Take a deep breath. I need you to know, like, I'll lead you, I'll guide you, follow me. And the scary part is, it's not until we finally get alone with ourselves, by ourselves, that the damage that we have done becomes abundantly clear. Whether our marriage is hanging on by a thread, or our identity in Jesus is so scattered that we've lost completely who we are and why we're here, or we've become so strange to our kids. It's moments when this anxiety and this feeling of overwhelm just beats in our chest and it's bearing down on you. There's so much stress and anxiety in your life. Or maybe you're in the middle of a divorce and you just said, I do, 5 years later, and you're like, how did I get here? How did I come to this moment in my life? Or maybe you got that diagnosis. And you always prayed for people that got that diagnosis, but now the doctor's looking at you and saying, this is yours. And it just floors you. It's not in those moments that you're looking for a teacher or a savior or a revolutionary in Jesus. You are looking for Jesus to be your good shepherd, the one who cares for your soul, the one who has been there and will continue to be there, caring for you and your soul. And again, the wild thing is that some of us, we'd rather embrace the pain, we'd rather move past unresolved guilt, we'd rather numb it, we'd rather bury our anxieties to prove to the world and to ourselves that we don't need anybody to help us out of this situation. I'd rather carve my own path than to give credit to anybody else for helping me. And where does that come from? It comes from the resistance of a bruised and battered heart that's screaming at you constantly that you can do this all by yourself. And then you make that the war chant of your life. And you don't realize, but it costs you greatly that you have chosen to walk in the desert than to let yourself be carried by the Good Shepherd. Why do we do this? Why do we find ourselves in this pattern over and over and over again? Well, verse 14, it's because we refuse the shepherd because we don't know him and we don't trust him. We spend zero time getting to know him, and so we don't trust him. Verse 14, here's how it goes. It says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Like guys, listen, you could meditate on this. I was stuck in this for a while this week, right? How does Jesus know us? How does God want to know us? In the same way that the Father knows the Son. It's not a different kind of knowledge. It's the same kind of knowledge. Go to John chapter 15, verse 9. It says, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. In the way the Father knows the Son knows us. In the way the Father loves the Son loves us. He gives us the same kind of love. He wants us to walk around with the same kind of knowledge and the same kind of love and the same kind of trust. Guys, this is maybe the most satisfying thing you can hear because our culture has a definition for love, and it's the word acceptance. And it is the most shallow definition humanity has ever come up with. Acceptance. We hear it every day. Acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. Is acceptance a part of love? It's a part of love. It's a piece of love. But acceptance is not what Jesus is talking about between him and the Father. And it's not what he's talking about between us and him. It's perfect love. It drowns out fear. It eliminates the need to be anxious. It's not that he's like, don't be anxious, don't be fearful. He's telling you that because in him you have no reason to be anxious or fearful. Man, it's good. And here's the other thing that happens, all right? If you're like me and you're cynical and you're skeptical, then this naturally drives suspicion in you. Because you go, I've never met anybody this good. This has got to be too good to be true. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, is too good to be true. No, I can't believe this because when I believe this stuff, I get burned. And Jesus cuts through all that suspicion of when we go, is he trustworthy? Is he going to be faithful? Is he that good? Does he care for me? Can he prove it? It's just too good to be true. How does he cut through all of that? By simply saying this line, he cuts through all the suspicion. I lay down my life for the sheep. He lays his life down. This is huge for us. Now let's talk real quick about death. In the West, we tend to run away from the idea of death. We tend to belittle it, to not talk about it. We want to delay it as long as we can. We want to distract ourselves away from thinking it. We develop new age-defying treatments to our skin and our face. We're looking to come up with ways to live longer. We think that we can just extend it and live longer, and that'll make everything better. We really deny death in a real sense. Like, you walk around knowing that it's coming for us all, but it's somehow you think you're invincible, it'll never happen to you. It's a weird dichotomy to kind of live in. Pause here for a second. Death is Jesus' greatest enemy. There's something unnatural and unsettling and disruptive about death. It's foreign. It's like an unwelcome guest in God's creation. You know it's not how God created things to be. When we drive through the Flint Hills between here and my in-laws' house in Topeka, especially on evenings when the sun's like just kind of like going over, it's like a sunset moment. There's always an unsettling time when it's deer season and someone has hit a deer and that deer is laying on the side of the road and everybody gets in the other lane. And I remember driving with my kids, and they would look at a dead deer, and they're trying to make sense. Is that thing asleep? Is it resting? It's probably a dangerous spot to lay down, right? Like all that kind of stuff. But as they got older, explaining to them that deer is dead. It doesn't have life in it anymore. It's an unsettling thing to find out that not everything lasts forever. This is what Jesus steps into. As a pastor, I just did a funeral yesterday. I know full well how death affects us, the reality of death, the pain of death. Some of us have healed and unhealed wounds from death, open wounds from the reality and the effects of death in our life. Like, death brings pain. It is no gentleman. It doesn't care if you were loved or you loved. It doesn't care about your untapped potential. It doesn't care about honoring your timing. It doesn't wait for you. It just takes. It robs from us. It feels like it's taking things from us. It's the separation of the body from the soul. It's ripping us apart. It's taking apart what was never meant to be separated in the first place. Some people refer to it as disintegration. You're just disintegrating. All of our days are ripped apart in that moment of death, and we avoid death at all costs. We delay it, we distract from it, we deny it, and while we do that, there is one man in history that walked toward it. All the billions of people that have ever existed run from death, and there's one man who walked toward it, and his name is Jesus. Death couldn't come to Jesus. You realize this? Theologically, let me just put something in your mind. He is perfect. He is God. God cannot die when death comes to him. He had to be willing to lay down his life. He had to be willing, which means he had to walk toward death, not death toward him. Jesus voluntarily steps into the thing we're most afraid of. While the masses run away screaming and hiding, he walks right to it. Look at verse 18. Circle, underline, and highlight this. This is the gospel to us. No one takes it from me. No one takes my life from me, but I lay my life down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. No one coerced him. No one forced him into a corner where he had where he had no other option. Not even death itself had a claim on Jesus. Jesus voluntarily steps in to give up his life because he's the only person in all of history who didn't have to die, but he did. Why does he do this? Because he loved the Lord his God with all his heart, soul, mind, and strength. Because he loved his neighbor as himself. And he did what we couldn't do. He lived a perfect life. He did everything right. He was God in human form, something that we were supposed to live perfect and we couldn't. And because we couldn't live perfect, he came and willingly, of his own accord, gave up his life and walked straight into death's chambers. He took our execution for himself. Death could not come to Christ, so Christ came to death. He takes our penalty. He takes on the death that we deserve. That's the gospel message. John Murray puts it like this. It's kind of savage, but it's very true. He says, and as it were, Jesus Christ put one hand on his soul and one hand on his body and ripped himself apart. Jesus knows death. And our response is always, okay, but you would do that for me? You would lay your life down for me? And his response is always, gladly. That's the kind of shepherd that he is. That's why we trust him with our lives. If you go back to verse 16, it goes like this. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. It's a beautiful picture of unity that Jesus is after here. He's speaking to the Jews about the Greeks and about the Gentiles. He's shaking up for them who could be in and who would be out. Jews would have never envisioned that Gentiles would ever be invited to be a part of the family of God in the same way that they were a part of the family of God. And here Jesus is constantly talking with prostitutes and tax collectors and fishermen. In Luke 18, Jesus tells a story. He's like, there's a Pharisee on his way to pray. And this Pharisee was perfect. He does everything right. And he's praying and he's fasting. And as he's walking to the temple to pray, this Pharisee looks down to his left and he sees this tax collector on his knees, bent down, beating his chest, saying, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. And while the Pharisee sees that, the Pharisee says, God, thank you that I'm not like this miserable tax collector. And Jesus goes, you don't understand. In this story, my guy is the one beating his chest on the ground, full of sin, full of regret, full of shame. It's the one begging for mercy that Jesus goes, that's my guy. So when we begin to create sheep pens and we're like, they're too far gone, they're too far out there, they could never make it here, they would never be able to come and meet Jesus because they're just too far out there, we don't understand that we serve and love a God of impossible action and activity. He transforms. Listen, I think sometimes God sees those who are on the furthest outreaches of society and goes, I'm going after them too. But you and I go, yeah, but they're too far out there. And like, we live in a neighborhood. Like, every day we see, like no bones about it, meth users, alcoholics, people who are stealing, cheating, like killing. Like, we're like around it. We're in a neighborhood that people deem is too far gone. Hold your breath. Jesus goes, I want to work here. I want to meet people here. I want to transform lives here. Far from God? You think they're too far from God? I met a guy at the gym. We're walking out one day, and I'm like inviting him to church. And as I invite him to church, he's like, oh, Travis, church isn't for me. The whole thing would burn down if I were to walk in, right? It's a common thought. People literally think that when they come into church, God's ready to smite them. You're back, get her, right? Like, get that guy, right? But they don't understand the heart of God. When he comes in, the angels, you can hear him in heaven, like, yeah, buddy, let's go. They're getting ready to celebrate and praise. They're getting ready to go, God has done it again. He transforms hearts again. He took someone who didn't think they could ever come to know God, and he brings them into the family of God, and he sits them at the table, and he's like, that's who he is. He invites in the masses. But you and I, we get back into that, it's my voice, not his. I'm not following the shepherd anymore. And we begin to create some philosophical or ethical or moral grid. We act like God only comes close if somebody's morality begins to be shaped up. Then Jesus is like, oh, they're gettable now. Jesus doesn't wait until somebody's gettable. That's kind of the point. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. We live in a world where lots of people are not gettable for me, but no one's not gettable for him. That's where we come into, and that's what Jesus is saying. He's the one who defines. It's like, for him, there's only two categories for Jesus. In verse 16, those who listen to my voice, which means it doesn't matter where you are on the map. What matters is those who listen and those who don't. When you hear his voice, the most captivating voice, when he calls you, you come. It's literally like, it's muscle memory. Your conscience works this way. When you listen to your conscience, it gets stronger. When you listen to the voice of God, your faith grows stronger. When you ignore it or don't listen to it, it weakens. Listen, respond, obey, follow. What is transformation? It's not just when something big happens. Transformation happens when you listen to the voice of God and you do what he says. That's transformation. That's your life changing before your very eyes, because every time before that, you did it your way, where you were prone to wander away from him. And don't forget what verse 16 says. It's Jesus that brings them in. It's Jesus. They can't hop over the fence. They can't get in through another way. It's only through Jesus and his transformative work. And last but not least, here's their response. This is how the Jews respond to everything Jesus says in the moment. Verse 19, the Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? There's deep skepticism by the Jews, but be fair when you're reading the Bible. The Jews had reason for their skepticism. Sometimes we don't realize this or we don't remember this. You're like, okay, I would have a different response. I'd be like on Team Jesus and get the bumper sticker and we'd be all good. But the debate wasn't for the Jews, do we need a good shepherd? The debate was, is he the good shepherd? Is he the champion king who's going to rescue our souls and take care of us? That's what they were debating. Not, do we need a good shepherd? It's, is he the good shepherd? And you got to remember, God's people had been put through the ringer. Let's just go over their history really fast. If you're familiar with the Old Testament, you remember that Babylon took out Israel and made them their slaves, right? And they oppressed God's people. And then the Persians came along, and they took out Babylon, and they made God's people, and they oppressed them. And then after the Persians take out Babylon, then the Greeks come, and they take out Persia, and they make God's people their slaves and oppress them. And then when the Greeks have it, Rome comes along, and Rome takes out Greece and makes God's people their slaves. Every time another country is conquered from the Babylonians on, God's people become oppressed by another government. And so these people had reason to go, we have been around bad leaders all of our lives, our grandfathers and their fathers and their fathers. We've all been in oppressed governments with bad leaders. So forgive us if we're like, are you the good shepherd? And guys, maybe that's true of us too. Maybe you've been around bad leaders too. Like coming into church for you is not easy because it's been years since you've come in, and the last time you came in, it was an interaction with a leader that you could have that just changed your dynamic. Or maybe there's abuse that you experienced from a leader in your life, a parent in your life, a teacher in your life, a coach in your life. You're like, I've been around bad leaders so often that the thesis of my life is I don't trust anyone. So I'm on a highway to hell. Who cares? And Jesus is whispering to you, like, you're here for a reason. You're not here coincidentally. It's not like some accident that you're here. There's a reason that you're here hearing this today. It's because Jesus is crying out to you. Your good shepherd his voice is calling to you. Come home. Come home. He's like, look at me. Follow me. I know that you've listened to every other voice from yesterday on. But today I want you to hear my voice calling you now into a personal relationship with me and let me lead you. And we know what this life looks like walking with the Good Shepherd. Psalm 23 goes like this: the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. Green pastures represent these sheep were content. They aren't hungry and feeding. They're lying down content. He goes on. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. These sheep aren't drinking or thirsty. They're satisfied lying down in the grass. They've tasted the living water, and that's what they desire now. No substitute will do. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. There's no reason to fear with him. He's brought us to rest. We're not scattered and running and darting off, trying to hide in the shadows. We're not reactive. I know that the shepherd's got me. I'm content and satisfied, and I'm present with him. The whole argument that this passage is making, what the Good Shepherd is offering us, what Jesus is actually offering us, is wholeness. The parts of our lives that have been pulled apart because of the chaos that we've lived in the Judean desert and the wilderness of our society, of our culture, when we get pulled apart into many different pieces, here's what Jesus does with the gospel. He pulls us back together. He gives us a new identity and a new unity and a new place and a new family. And it's not about the family and the unity and the place. It's about the Good Shepherd being the one who is present in your life. And then the rest of that is just the product of being around him. You know how many people chase every attribute of Jesus, but they don't chase Jesus? Our world's after peace, love, joy, patience, goodness. We want what the shepherd offers. Our problem, guys, is we don't ultimately just trust the shepherd, Jesus. We just don't know him. We just don't trust him. We're left with the same moment that the Jews had at the end of this. Andrew Lincoln says it like this: what are we to make of him, this good shepherd? The choice is inescapable. Is he, as he claims, from God, or the deluded victim of some obsession? We too must choose. Everything without exception hangs on our response. The desert will leave you empty every single time, but the good shepherd will lead you home every single time. The question is, which voice will you follow? Which voice will you follow? Listen, I want to really land and kind of shift for just give me like 2 minutes here to just tell you a little bit about this step that we're making as a church. And some of it's like, okay, this is just a logo or a symbol. What we've done is over the last year is we've worked at creating a symbol for the district church that kind of encapsulates our heart, our passion, our vision for ministry here in Delano. And it was not easy to come up with, and there's a guy named Brian Weens who's come up with it. He works brain sinew. He's a graphic designer in town. But we really love what has been designed, what he designed, what he put together, because he sat with us, and it was kind of a long process to kind of intentionally talk about. We don't want it just a logo. The D is great, but like we want something that will symbolize who we are as a church body and where we're at in our community. And so I want to explain a couple of things about the logo that you see here. First thing that you'll see, and you've got a card that'll kind of explain this. I don't know, what are some of the slides real quick? Okay, here's the square. The square in this logo represents the Delano District. If you look on a map, like the boundary lines of the Delano District neighborhood is literally like a square. And so we put that as kind of the centerpiece of what we wanted to pull this symbol in and around. So if you read on your card, the square represents our home, Delano. It's the place God has called us to serve with passion and perseverance. We're in Delano for good. Listen, you may go to church in Delano but not live in Delano, and that's fine. What we want you to believe is that you have a neighborhood, you have a workplace, you have a school where you live, learn, work, and play. And we want you to make that. We want that to be your Delano. We want that to be your square, right? We want that to be the place where you are on mission, living purposefully with God. The next is the heart. You may not see this when you see the full pattern, but now you'll see it that we've explained it. But the heart wraps around the central square, reminding us that everything starts with love, not just any love, but the kind of love that Jesus shows us first. So if the heart is actually in 4 different directions, it's up and down and it's left and right, and it kind of pulls into the square. And the neat thing about how the square is designed too is there are arms from the heart wrapping around the square that are like hugging the square and making that square the place where they are doing life and ministry. And so that's what that represents. And right in the center of the square, right in the center of the heart, right in the center of the arms is this spark. And the spark is Jesus. It reflects this unique transformation that happens when God's love meets real life. God is creating that spark in the story of the district. And so what we believe is like that spark represents what we will call a change agent. And that change agent is Jesus Christ. We believe the change agent that works in this neighborhood, that has worked in our hearts, that works in our communities, in our hubs, in our ministries, is Jesus. And so when we see that spark, it just reminds us Jesus is at the center of that, which leads us to love our neighborhoods well, which leads us to be a people who are for the places where we live, learn, work, and play. We want to be an intentional people. We'll challenge you with that this fall. We don't want you to be accidental. We want the Spirit to be working through you. Here's the really cool thing about what God has done in our lives. Guys, we started with about 35 people over at Milk Float, and then we moved over into a school gymnasium and did that for a couple of years, and then we remodeled an old post office that had 5,000 square feet in it. And then we moved over into this building, which was formerly Westside Baptist Church, about a year and a half ago. And we put a lot of love into what we've done and who we've tried to be as a church body. But we will always constantly ask ourselves, are we aligned with Jesus in what we're doing? Not are we trying to do something different or unique just to be different or unique. We're trying to do what God has called us to do. We started with 35, and last week, on not a special holiday or anything like that, we had 330 people come to church on Sunday morning, which is just a real amazing thing. Listen, we are not the fastest growing thing in Wichita. We're not the fastest growing church. We're not on any outreach magazine. We're not like the most prominent thing, but here's what's slowly building. Authentic, real, genuine relationships. We don't have special sauce. We don't have a huge budget. We don't have like a place in town where there's just like tons of people who like for every just to get into your mindset a little bit. If every individual and family that goes to a church is described as a unit, when one unit comes to the district church, it's usually about 1.5 people. When a unit goes to a church maybe out on the outskirts of town or in the suburbs, it's usually about 4.5 to 5 people. So we could reach the same amount of units, but reach a quarter of the people. Why is what we're doing significant? It's because we're made up of a very diverse group. We're made up of people from all different walks of life, ideologies, shapes, colors, all those kinds of things. And we love what God is bringing in because in the center of everything is Jesus. It's not a personality. It's not a culture. What we're trying to present here is Jesus as the way of life, as Jesus as the identity, as Jesus as the focus. And we believe if we stay aligned with him, then greater things and greater things and greater things will continue to be done in this neighborhood, in your life, and in us together. So we're so excited for what God has already done. We have reached people that we've baptized who wear ankle bracelets for their parole officers. We've reached people who have been addicted to drugs and alcohol. We've baptized people who have had abortions. We've baptized people who have failed in their marriages. And we've baptized people who are walking in their life and they finally meet Jesus. And everything has been basically together, but they just had no purpose or fulfillment. They didn't realize Jesus was the only way. Business leaders, failed business, like we cover the gambit here. And we love what Christ is doing because it's so evident he's the one who brings it together. He's the one who molds it and shapes it. And so we invite you, continue to lean hard into what we're doing here as a church body. And logos and all the stuff that we're doing, we love all that. It's artistic, it's whatever. And the signage that we put on the building, here's the last thing I'll say. Here's why it's significant, because every time we take a move like that where we put signage in the ground or on our building, it reminds us that we are permanent. We are here to stay. There's so many things I could talk to you about Delano. We're the only church in Delano now that's east of Seneca. We're the only church in Wichita that's east of Seneca. Metro Baptist has moved to the northwest part of town. And so we're holding up a part of the mission of God in the middle of town that has dwindled. More churches have closed in our neighborhood than have opened in the 7 years that we've been here. And we want to keep seeing the vision and the mission of God be successful in our neighborhood and in this city. Guys, we've got people in city government. We've got people that are teaching. We've got people that are affecting change in different areas and influences. And we do not want to be quiet about that. We want to be an influence in our city and our families. We want people to speak boldly the name of Jesus. We want to do that with Jesus at the center of everything we do, and we want you to do it where you live, learn, work, and play. God's called me to be obedient in things, and God's going to call you to be obedient in things, and it's going to be you stepping in, letting him be the good shepherd of your life, leading you, guiding you, and directing you in every step that you take. Let me pray for us, and then we're going to sing. We're going to wrap it up with a song, and then there is cake. We're celebrating all that kind of stuff out in the lobby. Oh, man, last thing, I got to say this too. Eli brought it up this week. In the Old Testament, there's this word Ebenezer. Ebenezer stands for stone of help, and it basically means that the Israelites would put up and erect this stone of help, this Ebenezer, to signify that God has been faithful. And so when you look at the big, long sign that we have out here, that's like our Ebenezer, not Ebenezer Scrooge, which is where my mind goes, but like that's our Ebenezer. That is our stone of help. It's a reminder that God has been faithful and he will be faithful. That's who he is. Let me pray. God, thank you so much for what you've done through the district church. Thank you for the way that you've been faithful to change people's lives. Thank you for the way that you have built relationships that are authentic and real. And thank you that we still are like, all right, we're figuring this out. We're figuring some things out and other things we still don't have figured out, but we're just like looking to you and going, how do we align with you? How do we make sure that we're doing what you want us to do? How can we be faithful to you and guided by you? So help us to continue to just keep our eyes on you, God. That goes for us corporately as a church body, as an organization, but that goes for us as individuals who are faithfully following you and asking, what's the next step that you have for us in our life, Good Shepherd? Pray that we'll trust you. Help us connect this message, this moment, 18 inches from our head to our heart, and may it fully transform everything about us. It's in your son's name we pray and give all glory. Amen.